This episode of Phantomween is sponsored by filmfights.com.
Phantomween!
After playing Alien Isolation recently on the Xbox, which is one of the scariest games I've played in ages by the way, I got a bit nostalgic. I love the original movie and the level of detail in the game was pretty accurate. That's what prompted me to make a replica of Ripley's Flamethrower. This is the most ambitious build I've done for Phantomween to date, so I decided to bring it to you over 2 episodes, as there are a lot of steps and, well, I haven't quite finished making it yet. Almost there though. The first thing I had to do was some research to find out its dimensions, and I discovered that the original prop was 31.5 inches long. So then I found a photograph of it side on, printed it out and measured it in the picture. Divided this measurement by 31.5, which gave me the size of an inch if it had been scaled down. I then made measurements of all the parts of the flamethrower in the picture and scaled them up. Now I had all the information I needed to find the parts to build the prop. The materials I used were 3 sheets of white poster board about 16.5 inches by 11.5 inches, 1 sheet of black poster board about the same size, 2 A4 sheets of thin white card, 2 plastic bottles, these are 8 inches in height, 2 picture hooks I got from a hardware store, a sheet of plastic mesh, a selection of wooden dowels ranging from 1/4 inch to 3/4 inch, flat wooden batten, an old spark plug and spark plug cap, various nuts, bolts, washers and wood screws, 3 bottle caps, an old piece of flexible hose I had lying around, a piece of white fun foam. This is just an offcut I had, I didn't actually use much of it, some old electrical cable that I stripped the wires out of, a bendy drinking straw, a paper fastener, wire, plastic buttons, masking tape, strong craft glue and hot glue. I also used chrome, white and black enamel paint. I started off building the muzzle by cutting out 20 discs from the white poster board about 1.5 inches in diameter. Glued 14 of these together to make the main part of the muzzle and stuck card around this. Next I cut out 2 slightly larger and 1 slightly smaller discs, 2 strips of the fun foam and glued these together like so. I also put a chamfer around the edge of the front disc. Then I made the part of the muzzle that joins the body of the thrower like so. Next I cut 2 6-inch lengths of 3/8 inch dowel, very carefully drilled holes in the 2 sections big enough to fit the dowels and glued in place, with a gap of 2¼ inches between the sections. Next I made holes in the end of the muzzle with a pencil, which is much safer than using a drill. I cut a piece of poster board which would make the front of the flamethrower body, made holes for the dowels and glued in place. Next I used the spark plug to mark where it fit in the muzzle and cut a hole slightly smaller so I could screw it in place, and then painted the whole thing chrome with black paint in the holes. Next I cut pieces of dowel and poster board to make the gas bottle regulator on the side of the flamethrower. I'll put a link to a PDF in the description of next week's part 2 video with all the dimensions you'll need for this build. I assembled these parts like so, gluing them in place. I sanded down the poster board section and glued on a nut that fit nicely over the dowel. I then cut the head off a paper fastener and glued it here, and strengthened the dowels that the bottle fit to with a wood screw. I then painted this chrome and glued on the bottle and the bottle caps. Next I cut the parts for the top detail from the poster board and plastic mesh. Cut a small piece of the wooden batten and use it as a screw fix mounting to attach one of the picture hooks to the top. I also glued them in place for extra strength. I then glued the plastic mesh to each of the black poster board sides and stuck these in place. Made a base with more poster board and cut pieces of the white card to frame the edges. I also stuck a square of card on the front and made a hole that would fit some of the electrical cable. Next I cut 2 discs 3 inches in diameter and a piece of card 7 inches wide and long enough to make a tube that the discs would fit. This makes the butt of the flamethrower. Then I fitted a nut and bolt through the bottom of the second bottle, which I did by making a hole then pulling the bolt through attached to wire. Then I abraded the whole thing with sandpaper so that paint would adhere to it and painted it white. I also painted the dowel that it would be fixed to. I then cut the hand grips from poster board, each made of 3 sections glued together like so. Made holes for dowels and painted them chrome. Tune in next time to see how all these parts fit together. It's sponsor time.
Welcome to Film Fights.
Film Fights is a free online video contest site. We have a new fight every 2 weeks and give you a time limit, a brief and a deadline.
If you want to get quality feedback on your work and hone your skills as a filmmaker, then stick around because you're in the right place.
As well as reviews, you can also get in touch with other film fighters on our forums. You can ask other film fighters for advice, discuss filmmaking, or just drop in and say hi.
All the entries are split into lightweight, middleweight and heavyweight categories.
And then voting opens and everybody votes for their favorite.
Make it into the heavyweights and we'll review your film right here.
We make the rules.
You make the films.
You decide the winner.
Film Fights.
Well, that's about it for this episode. Don't forget you can still send your Phantomween shoutouts to me at ThePhantomMonk@hotmail.co.uk. Tune in this Thursday for Matt's next Film Frights episode, and I'll be back next Sunday with part 2 of the Flamethrower prop build. Keep an eye on the Phantomween 2015 playlist, and why not subscribe if you don't want to miss future episodes. Thanks for watching.
Phantomween.